Okay.
So Ron brought up the subject of how would we feel about cloning organs?
Ah,
That is interesting.
so I'm not an expert on cloning. However, yeah, I one time heard if you could clone meat, like bacon, like pig, yeah, you could clone, yeah, if you could genetically manufacture something. So is it meat? If it doesn't come from an animal, but it's cloned, and the many rabbis say it's not. It's genetically manufactured.
They do that now, Rabbi. They
Yeah.
clone chicken.
Clone chicken. So as
No,
long
they
as they don't,
do.
as
For
long as they
years.
don't cluck, right? As long as it's not clucking. So now back to so cloning. I mean, in the old days, in the science fiction thing, you would let me figure out where I'm getting the echoing back from. Let me just figure that out for a second. No, there's no microphone at all. There it is. I found it. Okay, so so in the old days, there was a show that was on like some kind of after school special where they had a second kid to use their organs. Like, they had a sick kid, and the only way to help the kid, right? You've heard, it's like an old story that's like happened once in history and that everyone, talks about. So that's a no-no. I mean, having a kid to use, or in the movie Coma. Do you remember the movie Coma? Back, there was a book where, you have all the bodies and to use their organs. Those would be no-nos. So cloning, if you told me you can clone something, that is not like born, like if you cloned a human and bore them, and like, again, not science fiction, there would be a problem with cloning a human to use their organs. But if you said you could clone an organ, right? They now like they can use this like printer, a 3D printer, and make a gun, right? So if you could use a 3D printer and make an organ, it's just like the bacon that's not really bacon. So what is cloning? If cloning is creating something out of nothing, or creating something not out of a human, then it's going to be okay.
I would think so. And then I think about like, can you use a pig heart or something like that? And you can. So
just can't eat the pig heart.
Right. If you can use a pig heart or a pig valve, right? All that, something that is intrinsically trace, all the more so something that comes from nothing, I think it would be okay. It would be interesting to study. I think it would be okay.
And if you take the cloning away from organ donation and just say, can we clone? And that is like, I'm going to clone my child or clone something for the sake of having another human being in the world. I think that's probably okay.
I think
no.
Going down another. Then you're being God. Then we're all
God gave us the science.
We're all created in God's
image. But that's not. You would have problems with that cloned child, and it wouldn't come out for.
Identical twins are raised differently, and I think if we
identical twins look the same, but they are not the same.
Yeah, but if you could genetically engineer a human being, and which is like what our son is doing, where slowly but surely they're trying to remove genetic material that's bad for you. So there was an old movie called Gattaca. It's not so old, it's in the 1980s, or 90s, where they made this, where they were able to remove all the bad stuff from us in the future so that everyone's perfect. But if someone came out with one of these things, they would throw them away. It's, again, science fiction, Logan's Run kind of stuff. So the idea is, God gave us the ability to genetically manipulate embryos or something. I don't even know what those things are called, eggs. But I think that God gave us science to use. What do you got, Heidi?
Well, I was just going to say, before you got on to the duplication, which I don't agree with. I'm sorry.
Amy agrees with you. Okay.
Yeah, but
I believe
before
in
that,
science.
wait a minute. When you were talking cloning and it's something reproducing something, what about if you had a partial heart or a partial, and you were able to grow from that? That I think is different than manufacturing an imitation 100%.
By the way, that's what we're hearing with livers and kidney, that you take a partial and grow. Judaism is fine with that. You know,
Except,
That makes sense.
Rochelle,
They can already grow legs. My son was in a terrible motorcycle accident, and they just grew him a new leg out of the bone from his and the muscle from his thigh.
I don't get it, but I'm okay with it. and the playing God thing, that's this argument that, oh, we're playing God. I believe God gave us medicine and all that other stuff.
but growing a leg or growing a heart is very different than taking a person
You
and
froze.
duplicating that person and creating a whole nother person. I think that to say
What if we-
they're both science,
What if we
okay,
clone?
they are both science,
What if
but
we
I
clone-
think that's a very different question.
What if we clone their soul? Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Here, before we get started, this is the most important thing today. Here, I need to mute everyone.
As
for a
much
second.
as you complain about miles, Rabbi, they should clone 4 miles and then you'll change your mind.
All right, here we go. So, God forbid, two miles is. Here's the question. Okay, this is a very important question. First question, you just have to raise your hand. Who calls it latkes or latkes? Raise your hand if you call it latka, okay? And raise your hand to call you latki with an E at the end. Okay, good. Now, this has really been bothering me today for the last 5 minutes. There are two kinds of rugelach out there in the world. All right, there is the braided rugelach and like the square rugelach. It's like, and you can you go to Costco, you get the square rugelach. You go to a New York bakery, you get the braided rugelach.
I don't know if braided, people might not know what braided means.
The longer,
Let me-
you know what I mean by that. Yeah, it's the longer one versus the square one.
They don't, okay, I will
Okay.
go get it. Hold on.
No, I just ate the last one. You can't, there's
No,
none.
they're more.
So, who likes the square rugelach more than the braided one? All right, and who likes the braided one more than the square one? All right, and who doesn't care? Okay, thank you. So I had this argument that no one likes a square one, but Rabbi Amy likes the square one more than the braided one. I said, that's not possible. No one likes the square one more than the braided one. And she's going to go get the braided one. But so Rabbi Amy, no one said yes to the square one. I don't think anyone said yes to the square one. Oh, Heidi said yes to the square one. All right. And Carol's saying maybe. Here, wait. Let me unmute Carol for a second. Carol, we can hear
You
you.
like them equally.
You like them equally. Okay, that's a deal. And here, Heidi, let's come to you.
But I've never seen the braided, what you're calling
Here.
braided.
Here we go. Let me explain. This is how this happened. So, wait, hold on. Okay. So
Can you spotlight?
Yes, we were making rugelach in religious school, okay? And it made me really want rugelach. So I ordered some from Dina and they came and this is what they look like.
They're like braided.
They're not braided.
They're
They're not
braided.
braided, they're rolled like
They're rolled.
croissant.
These are
They're like croissant. Well, I
Okay.
don't know. Rabbi,
So,
the square
wait,
ones.
hold on one second.
No, it's right.
So I ate one of these and I really said, it's okay, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted it like this,
Processed.
not processed. So when I was at Trader Joe's last night, I saw these and I was so excited.
Those don't look like rugula though. I've
Ah!
seen different ones.
That's what
right.
Alex said. But
There's
I ate
different
one
ones.
and it was delicious
Okay,
because
so-
it's more cream cheese based.
Fine. It is more cream cheese based. Maybe that is the.
Well, I do like, but those are huge though.
So we're gonna get started. Okay.
Now
was
that you
more
made me
important.
hungry for rugula, thank you, Rabbi
All
Amy.
right, we're gonna get started here.
There,
Okay.
there are only two types of rugula, good and better.
Okay.
So now you all need to vote. Do you like the rolled kind or do you like the rectangular? If you
Okay.
like the rolled, raise your hand.
Rolled. Okay, good. All right.
Okay, that's about, okay.
And
If you like
rectangular.
the rectangular, raise your hand.
You do have a few. It's not the majority, but I accept. I thought you're the only one in the world. Okay, let's get started.
How about if you never tasted the rectangular ones?
Go to Trader Joe's. They are delicious.
They do have cream cheese in it. Don't eat with meat. Okay.
Giant
we go.
Eagle has them too, and they're good too. They have the square ones.
Okay, let's get started. Here we go. There we go. Let's get started. Organ donation last week. Organ, because we only use 9 minutes. Organ donation last week, it was after death. But we said, what's the problem with organ donation? Because you don't take it all with you. You might leave and you're supposed to put everything back in the ground, which affects cremations, autopsies, embalming, organ donation. But we said it's a mitzvah gedolah, a greater mitzvah to save a life. And then, he said, but what about things that don't save a life, like corneas? And then we said, but if you see, you get to live longer. Not all the rabbis agree.
But if you eat too much arugula, your organs aren't so good.
Yeah, that's why Amy gets the bad ones. So some rabbis disagree when you can take the organs, like when is death, but that's not our problem for today. And is it only saving a life? And we decided maybe not. And we realized it wasn't just a Reform Orthodox issue. And even the storage, that nowadays, like in the old days, we said storage is bad, but if storage can still lead to saving someone's life, mitzvah gedolah. And it is not a choice. If you're a conservative, if you're Orthodox, it's the secret, right? According to the Orthodox, donating an organ that's going to save a life is a mitzvah gedolah, and that is commanded. You don't have you can't say, no, I don't believe in organ donation and use Judaism as an excuse. You can say, because I don't like it. But you can't use Judaism as an excuse if it can save a life. Even the Orthodox would say you must donate an organ if it's going to save a life, if you're in that episode in Grey's Anatomy. And that's what we had last week. Okay, so who's starting with during one's life? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share. Okay, yes, thank you, Georgia. I never meant to start. I'm like, okay, here it goes. I am going to share the document that I sent out last week and the week before. Here we go. Here we go. Too many things on my screen. I'm going to go to share screen. I am going to share that one. I am going to go like this. I am going to put your faces right there. Okay. And so we can see a few. And, oh, thank you, Rabbi Amy. Okay, here. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. During one's life. You got it?
Okay.
Okay. So during one's life, and this is a newer topic for us. Whenever you talk about organ donation, it was always about donating your organs, as in like your driver's license. But the new Melton curriculum has during one's life. Actually, it started with it, but we started backwards. Now, can you donate an organ? So, and by the way, this is a little harder. Like, I said, the Orthodox say you must, but what about you're putting your life at risk? All right, we had a kidney recently. We were a kidney request, right? So the first thing to understand is the concept is, can you sacrifice yourself for another? All right, it's a very classic question. Rabbi Amy and I taught it once before. Whose life is more important? Blah blah blah. So who's going to read for me? Why don't we have Joan and Irv, since you're the first people on my screen, and I can still see you. So Joan and Irv, can you see? Oh, you actually printed it out. Can't sacrifice yourself one for another. Number one, Bava Metzia. That's the Talmud 2,000 years ago. Now what law thing?
Got it.
Okay,
now,
take it away.
Now what law does Rabbi Yochanan deduce from the verse that your brother may live with you? Vayikra 25:36. He deduces the same law as was taught in the Berita. Two were traveling on a journey, far from civilization, and one had a flask of water in his hand. If both drink, they will both die. But if only one drinks, he can reach civilization. Ben Petora expounded, it is preferable that both drink and die rather than one should behold his companion's death, until Rabbi Akiva came and taught that your brother may live with you, your life takes precedence over your companion's life.
Okay, so famous story. We've taught it many times. What's the modern one? The trolley one, where there's a question of when can you choose who dies and who doesn't die? And then there's even questions like, what if you think that person should live more than you? Oh, they're better. They have a family, blah, blah, blah. And that the end will be red or blood. But when it comes to donating your organ, you're putting yourself at risk, right? If someone said, like, again, in the movies, right? It's in the movies, it's, I can save your life, but I'll die doing it. And the answer is no. So if you said, I can donate my heart right now to someone, but it'll kill me, that would be a no-no.
Because what we learned last week was we were talking about the statement, is your blood, how do you know that your blood is redder than someone else's blood, or that their blood is redder than yours? That Judaism doesn't believe that one life is more valuable than another, even if it may be contrary to American thought that, well, if somebody is younger or healthier or something like that, and it comes into play. It's kind of interesting thinking about our situations today, right? With the coronavirus,
Right,
like
we can kill the old people.
well,
It's a-
and in
yeah.
hospitals where, as hospitals
Oh, they have to
become
choose.
fuller and in ICU, and they have to choose, who is going to live, Judaism would say that it's first come, first served.
Right.
Judaism
Ventilator.
would not say that it is the younger person or the healthier person. It would say that there is no, that all blood is the same. So that's kind of the concept that we're dealing with here is,
Yeah. Judaism would say a 99-year-old and a 15-year-old, I know in the world we live in, would make a difference, but in the Jewish world, if there's a ventilator, whoever, first come, first serve. It's very good, very, very good way of putting it. We heard in Italy early on that they had to start making decisions on who gets a ventilator. Shirley, go ahead.
Yeah, what does that have to do then in the thought about abortion for the life of the mother, if they're both equal?
Okay, I had a feeling that might come up. So
Good question.
the answer is not the same for the rabbis. All right, so because when I bring up Grey's Anatomy, it's always the mother's lying in bed and she's in the hospital and she's going to give birth, but if she gives birth, she'll die. And then she's like, oh, they always say, kill me and let my child live. And then there's always like, but then your child has no mother, blah, blah, blah. Judaism has no problem with the answer here. Now, most of you may disagree with this answer, by the way, but the Jewish answer is the mother's life comes first, period. I have this line that I like to shock people, right? I say, killing is a mitzvah if it's self-defense. Divorce is a mitzvah. Some marriages are not meant to be. And I say abortion is a mitzvah. Abortion is a commandment. If the mother's life is at stake, there is no two lives. I'm not saying it's not a life. It just, according to Judaism, I don't think anyone can really disagree. The question is, at what point does it cease to be that way? But the mother's life comes first. So
the mother is already a life.
The mother is a life.
The
other is a
life.
potential life.
The other is a potential life.
I know we're not getting into eyelids and heartbeats and fingernails and little crosses on our lawn, but Judaism. Now, by the way, the one thing I want to add in with science, and then Harvey's next, is if the child can live outside the womb, late term or really late term, then that's a problem. Then you may have two equal human beings. The rabbis 2,000 years ago said when the head breached or got out, but now that head can come out much earlier. You don't call a 2-month-old or 2-month premature baby a fetus for the next 2 months. It's a baby. Yeah, it's a person. I see Harvey. Harvey, hit us.
I have a different situation. You're a Secret Service agent and you're saying you'll take a bullet for your boss.
Jewishly speaking, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a big that would be a problem in Judaism.
Because Judaism would say that you are not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Or what did
Great
you
question.
Want to say? Really, it's interesting. Yeah.
Probably no Jewish Secret Service agents.
I assume there's less of them. We're more accountants.
But probably not because of the law, the Jewish law. What did you want to say, Irv?
What about medical triage? If you have a multi-casualty event or with COVID, what you look at is those who are likely to survive or don't need much treatment, and those who are seriously ill but are likely to survive with treatment, and those who are more seriously ill but even with treatment are not likely to survive. And that last group does not get the treatment because you've got to do the ones that are likely to survive.
I think the answer is coming, and it's not exactly the answer that we're going to say today, but I think you're getting into likely, probable, possible. And even though we're going to be talking about putting your life at risk, likely, probable, possible, what can you do? Can I, if my child is drowning in a wading pool, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to drown saving them. But if my child is being, God forbid, eaten by a shark in high winds and with no, and then there's a very good chance if I jump in, I'm going to die. Back to the triage thing, Shirley's next. The triage thing, I think, would be a Jewishly acceptable thing, because your question isn't who deserves to live or die. It's who by helping them is more likely to live. By helping the person who's got like 3 seconds to live versus the person who you could, just stick a finger in them and they'll live. I think that I understand the medical trauma thing. I think Judaism would say you could order it based on that, which is fascinating because I'm not talking about how much life you have left if you're 90 years old or 15 years old. But yeah, if you said, oh, they're going to die of old age, if you look at the person and go, oh, they're going to die of old age, but that could affect the choice if you have two people at the same time, right? You're saying at the same moment you have to decide, and one has a better chance of living, then I think Jewishly, and of course the Israeli army, or when you go to a bombing site, you have to do that a lot on the spot. Surely it's more uncomfortable stuff. Nope, you're good. Okay, so let's do some more because I want to get to some of those answers. Okay, so here it goes. Share screen, Oregon donation, good. Okay, number 2. So you can't sacrifice yourself for another, but you also can't do nothing. You can't do nothing either. So Carol, you're my next one on my screen. Do you want to read?
Certainly. Sanhedrin 73a. From where do we learn that if one sees his companion drowning in the sea, or being dragged by an animal, or being attacked by bandits, he is obligated to come to his rescue? From the verse, you shall not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor, Yikra 19:60. But it is derived from here, this verse. Is it not rather derived that there a different verse? From where do we deduce that one is commanded to restore a life in danger of being lost? From the seemingly extraneous words in the verse, and you shall restore it to his life, to him, Devarim 22:2. From the latter verse, I might think that it is only a personal obligation, but that he is not bound to take the trouble of hiring men if he cannot deliver himself. Therefore, the former verse comes to teach that he must.
Okay, so thank you, Carol. So we have this idea that, well, there was you hear this last year. Did anyone see that thing where a bunch of kids videotaped someone drowning? I think it was in Tennessee. Something racist too. A bunch of white kids videotaping a drowning black man. And the question was, they just sat there videotaping. It's like the last episode of Seinfeld. Same thing happened where they videotaped a mugging, but didn't step in. And of course, if you step into a mugging, that's a very good chance of getting hurt. But you don't have the choice of doing nothing. Kitty Genovese is one of the most famous sociological moments in history. The woman who was stabbed, I don't know, like for 2 hours, 100 times in a courtyard in New York City in the 1970s, I think it was. All of us who studied sociology read this thing, and no one called the police, like no one. And so they interviewed, and it was a hot day. You have to set up, it's a hot day, it's New York City, all your windows are open, this poor woman screaming, she's being stabbed up, no one calls the police. So they interviewed, it was a great experiment, right? So you now interview all the people in the courtyard. Why did you not do anything, right? And it was like nighttime, and they're like, oh, I thought someone else would. I was scared, right? You ever report something and then you're afraid that they're gonna come for you, if you ever, and so everyone had an excuse. But Jewish law says you don't have to throw yourself, back to Harvey's question, I might not have to throw myself in front of a bullet for someone, including my own children, according to Judaism. It wasn't like sacrifice yourself for a child or your fetus. But I tell this to kids who are being bullied, like in camp, you say, okay, if you step into a bully, usually you become the next target, but you have to do something. You got to tell someone, call the police, 911. I might not jump in the water, but throw something, get help. This is 2,000 years ago. You can hire men to say, like, you don't have the obligation to sacrifice yourself, but you also don't have the choice to not do something.
But it's interesting. We see here, if we look at the text, that it's not just like, do you help somebody who fell down in the street and had a stroke or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It is putting yourself in some risk, right? You see
Some
that
risk.
it's being dragged by an animal. So
Right.
it's an animal that could then hurt you. A bandit, so an armed robber, or a sea. So it's and we're going to see later just how much risk you can put yourself in, but it is saying you're obligated to put yourself in a little bit of risk for your neighbor.
Right, you have to hire someone to help. Heidi, I see your hand raised. Go ahead now.
Rabbi, I don't know if you went ahead and heard or watched, or maybe Rabbi Amy did, that video on the guy who saved his dog and he jumped into the water there and battled the alligator. Now, it was a baby alligator. So was that against Jewish law?
Yes, that's a definite yes. Judaism does not Judaism had Sar Balei Hayim. If you see an animal being hurt or dying or whatever, you must save it as long as you are not putting your life at risk. A guy jumping into alligators to save a dog. By the way, I saw one where the dog jumps in and saves people from a shark. That was kind of neat too, from 2 weeks ago. But this one there's no doubt Judaism would say, do not jump into an alligator pit to save your dog.
Well,
sorry, dog.
But it was a baby alligator in a pond on a golf course.
Okay. So now you see, I picture jumping into, a pit of alligators, right? But if you tell me there was a very, very good chance before he jumped in that he was going to come out alive, then you could argue that. And by the way, that's what this is going to lead to is how, and this is a hard question. How far is too far? How much risk is too much risk?
And I would say that Judaism is very clear on.
But animals are not the same.
Right. That
No, but that could have been a child.
Yeah. That would be different.
Yeah.
But, that we can't distinguish between two humans.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly Judaism tells us throughout the Torah that we do distinguish between humans and animals, and that there is really, no matter how much we may love our animals, that there is no equation.
No, even if you like your animal and hate the human still has to come first. Yeah, and there's all these stories. I have these kids' books where like the dog saved your life and the human is a bully. There's just no choice. Now, by the way, when my last week in New York City, I witnessed a mugging. And I'm walking down the street getting some clothes and a haircut for my interviews, coming out of rabbinical school, and I see a mugging. Two guys jump another person, cut him with a knife and run away. And I'm like, that if you report it, it's going to be hard. But I was the only witness. It happened right in front of me. So I went to the police. They put me in the police car. They caught the guys at Grand Central Station, pulled them out. I had to point them out. And then I'm now meeting, and this is what I'm trying to get out of New York City. I'm meeting with the DA and the ADA and their gang members. And I'm like, oh God, what did I get myself into? Because, helping someone, you could actually argue that, did I put my life at risk? Identifying, there's, this idea of Kitty Genovese, I'd say something, am I putting myself in the line of fire? It turned out that they didn't go to court, they didn't go to trial. They were going to have to bring me back up from Georgia for the trial. And I didn't have to testify. Yeah, I was just a witness. And because there was a witness, they could go through it. But, you put your life at risk sometimes when you step up, or
I think I must have been so pregnant with Justin, I didn't pay any attention, because normally I would have been pretty terrified.
No, you and I talked a lot about it. You just don't remember. Okay, number 3, Heidi, keep yourself unmuted, because you're my next person, and The Price is Right in my list of people. Even if you put your life at risk, You know, how, yeah, here's the question. So we shouldn't put our life at risk, but maybe even if you put your life at risk, this is the Talmud 2,000 years ago, Trumot 8:4. Heidi, do you see it?
Yep.
Take it away.
Okay. So Rabbi Ami or
Yeah,
Amy?
Ami, really, but don't
Ami.
worry about it.
Okay. Rabbi Ami was once taken captive in a dangerous place. Rabbi Yonatan said, "Let the deceased be interred in his intimate garment," i.e., Rabbi Yonatan had resigned himself to Rabbi Ami's imminent demise. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish,
Yep. He used to be a thief. Go on.
however, said, "I will either kill or be killed. I will go and rescue him by force." He went, appeased the captors, and secured his Rabbi Ami's release.
Okay, so these are different rabbis in the Talmud. You got this guy who's been taken captive, right? That's the good old days. One rabbi says, "What should we do?" And he's like, "The Kaddish." I write him off. You know, he's dead. The next one, now Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Reish Lakish is awesome. You know, he used to be this. He was this really good-looking thief. And some rabbi, if the story goes that some rabbi saw him and goes, "You're too good looking to be a thief. You should be a rabbi." And like he becomes a rabbi, and he's like a macho rabbi. And Reish Lakish was the macho rabbi in the Talmud. And but you see, another famous rabbi says, I'm going to go save him, and if I die, I die, which is very, macho.
I wonder if there's something else going on here, and
Yes.
that it may we could find equivalents in our world today. If you
Right.
notice, Rabbi Ami was once taken. Where was he taken captive? He was taken captive in a dangerous place. So to me, the reason that they say dangerous place is that perhaps he was
put
putting
himself.
himself
Oh, so where was he? He was walking through some bad place and got taken
someplace
captive.
he
Right.
shouldn't
He
have
shouldn't have
been.
been.
And it's kind of like,
It's his own fault.
if we think about when hurricanes come to
Mm.
Florida,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah.
told,
Uh-huh.
leave,
Yeah. And
and
that-
you don't leave. And
Or
then
don't go to the
someone-
beach.
Yeah.
And then someone else has to put themselves
Right.
at risk
And that's a very
to
common
come and
question.
get you.
It's a common ethical question. Do you
Mhm.
save someone who's being, and by the way, the Jewish answer is actually very interesting. There is a scene, there's that book that we were using, that pink book,
Mhm.
where these soldiers went swimming in a pool that was known to be where snipers were shooting. And they put themselves in obvious risk. And that meant the other soldiers now had to risk their lives to protect the stupid soldiers. And the Jewish answer was actually they did still have to, protect them, even though they were putting themselves at risk. So it's a very difficult ethical question, saving a stupid person. Yeah. Heidi.
So I know, I'm not sure which hurricane, but there was hurricane and comments were being made. Do not, if you don't leave, stay in your house. If you go out, the emergency crews will not be able to get to you. We will not authorize them. And that was the first time I heard them saying that, and rightly so.
Yeah. After New Orleans, we saw that a lot. And it's now a very common announcement. And that is, we will save you up until this time. And then we're not going to put our first responders at risk. It's a fascinating ethical dilemma. Again, it's like making people wear helmets on a motorcycle. Do we have a responsibility? And by the way, Judaism says we have a responsibility to protect others from themselves. So you would say that the Jewish answer is that you are supposed to enforce. Now the masks thing today is very different because now they're putting our lives at risk. Or drinking and driving is putting someone else's life at risk. Then now we should shoot them. But this thing is the idea of saving someone who's only putting themselves at risk. Jewishly, we're still supposed to. We are supposed to save them.
But Rabbi, there's always a time when they're not putting just their own life at risk.
Yeah.
The person who is not wearing a helmet takes out someone. I mean, it's a trickle effect.
Yeah, but not with their head, actually. And then this is a great example, because this is a great time to bring it up, because when they ride without helmets, they're actually, much more likely to be organ donors. So yes, but Judaism, would say we should force them to put a helmet on.
The other thing too, when you were talking about the mugging and whether you put yourself at risk by being a witness or coming forward.
Yeah.
I think we have an obligation to come forward
Yeah.
and be that witness, even if it does, there is a risk, but we have an obligation to step up and say something.
I agree, obviously. Obviously I agree. But at the same time, if you painted a different scenario, it was, these two guys and, they were known for killing any witnesses. Mexico would be a good example, right?
That's a
if you're a
dangerous
judge in
place.
Mexico, you're more likely to be beheaded, I think, than actually prosecute one of these these drug dealers. So I would say that if I felt I was really putting my family at risk, then I might have gone a different route. I didn't know how much it was. At the moment, I really didn't know what I was getting into. But I still, at the end, I don't mind because I didn't die. Okay, next. Fine. Sorry. There are no more ICU beds when it comes to COVID. Can they refuse? Okay, here we go. Wait. So if there are no more ICU beds and mask refuseniks coming with COVID-19, the answer is no. You can't. If this whole thing about who's next, whether no one can read this message. If there are no more ICU beds and a mask refusenik comes in with COVID-19, can the refusenik be denied the next ICU bed? There is an example of the blood is redder. Even though they're, I don't know, we're gonna question their intelligence or something. We're gonna say, does the stupid person, take an ICU bed from someone who deserves it, the next person? The answer would be, if they're next in line, we would still give it to them. By the way,
I might disagree with Jewish law here. I might.
By the way, I have one in the hospitals in Israel. They sometimes take care of the terrorist. And if the terrorist comes in on a gurney and then the next person is not a terrorist, they don't just leave the terrorist and say, okay, we're going to take care. You still take care of the next person, either the terrorist and the victim. I don't know if in reality that's really what happens, but again, Grey's Anatomy, the shooter and the shooted person. Okay, which one do you want me to move to, Rabbi Amy? Here, I'm opening it up.
I think we can.
I think we can
skip number 5.
So Rambam, Maimonides says, if you are able to rescue and nonetheless do not, you are killing someone. Okay, it's fine.
I'd skip this one.
Skip
and go
one,
to 6.
as long as it's not endanger yourself. I think we said that. Okay,
Yeah.
Hire someone. Okay. Oh, potential risk. This is and by the way, it's kind of hard. We don't use this word even the same way today. It's potential risk versus even risk or balanced risk, or risk that I'm having the same risk. That's funny.
Let me see while you start this.
Okay, there's a big truck out. We're trying to figure out why there's a big truck on our lawn. Okay, here we go. So going down my list, Richard and Ellen, I'm going to unmute you for a second. Can you read that from there, or do you just want to sit back and relax?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
We hear you perfectly, actually. Okay. So you've got a long one. It's number 6. This is, by the way, that's the year. 1582 is the year that the Rabbis wrote his response. Just understand when this was written. So about 500 years ago, this becomes a very big part. How much risk? I've been saying it, now you're going to see it. You ready, Ellen?
Ready.
Take it away.
Potential risk. Okay. Even risk not. Rabbis Response, Volume 5, 1582. Regarding the statement of the Rabbi Rambam of blessed memory, anyone who is able to rescue, this is referring to one who can be clearly rescued without the rescuer endangering himself in any way, such as one who is asleep under an unsteady wall, who the would-be rescuer is able to wake him from his sleep, but does not wake him, or one who knows of evidence to exonerate him, i.e. the other, e.g. from capital punishment, and fails to come forth. He transgresses the prohibition of do not stand idly by the blood of your brother. Not only in this case, but even if in saving him, there is a potential small risk of danger, such as the case when he sees him drowning or bandits attacking or wild animals threatening. For there exists in all of these cases a risk of danger. he is still obligated to rescue, and even if he cannot do it himself, he is not exempt for this reason, but is obligated to use his own finances to save the victim. Nevertheless, if the potential risk inclines towards certainty, he is not obligated to sacrifice himself to save his fellow. Similarly, if it is an even risk, he is not obligated to risk his life because of the rule. What did you see to make you think that your blood is redder? Maybe the other's blood is redder. But if the risk is not even and there is the probability of rescue and he chooses not to endanger himself and does not rescue, then he is in violation of the prohibition. Do not stand idly by.
Okay, this is a hard one, right? Now you're saying, if I draw, yeah, I sometimes use this in charity concepts. Like if you gave your shirt off to your back to someone who needed a shirt, now they have a shirt, but you don't. So you've kind of sacrificed yourself for them. And here, if you can save someone, and now, so if you can save someone without putting first one is very easy, right? They're sleeping under a wall and you just have to wake them up, right? Yeah, the first level is no risk at all to you. And if you don't do that, you're in real trouble. And then you can, I don't know, that the drowning thing is interesting because as a lifeguard, there were many cases where you shouldn't jump into the water, but they're saying that you have to do, right? They list that under things you have to do. But what happens when it could go either way? That you're really putting your life, that you're going, one of you, it's like the canteen of water.
Yeah. And I don't know, to me, actually, I feel like this makes it, you say it's difficult. I'm sure it would be difficult in person, but I think this spells it out really well and makes it easier. Like if it says if it's a 50-50
okay,
chance,
that's true. It does give you almost a percent. 50-50
right.
is balanced.
If it's 50-50, it's up to you.
Yeah.
If it's less than 50, like 49. If there's 49% chance that you're gonna be in danger, you have to do it.
Wow.
If it's a 51% chance you're going to be in danger, you shouldn't do it.
Wow.
It makes it very clear.
So if the doctor says, right, it's like, and of course, who knows what the percentages are for human life, but so they're coming out with this vaccine, right? And it's got these percentages, 90, 60, 70, whatever it is. So, I'm one of these people who's like a little more nervous about new vaccines. My study of history is that vaccines coming out real quick. Yeah, bad things have happened.
Okay, come on now. Go ahead.
I don't even know what to say.
Just keep going.
So, historically speaking,
I'm saying that because I think that we don't want to discourage. For you, I think that we don't want to discourage people from. You should have a vaccine as quickly as possible. So, okay, so let's just make that the PSA disclaimer. But the idea is that if someone says, there's a chance that you could die from this, that is never good enough in Judaism. That there's a chance you may die, but a much better chance you're going to live. You've got to do it. If I take Tylenol, but don't you love all the commercials that say, when they show anything, you don't even know what they're advertising, but then it tells you all the things all the side effects sometimes occurs in person, their nose falls off, sometimes death, it doesn't matter what the medicine is. Some people die from it. But if they say, if you look it up and they say, okay, 1 in 1,000 die, by the way, here's the interesting thing. If you say 50%, that's 1 in 2. So the Jewish answer would be, if you are 50% not putting your life at risk, you would do it. Now, I'm a little more nervous. I'm a gambler. 49% makes me a little nervous. I don't know if that's the same thing with the vaccine. I moved away from vaccines, but okay, go on. Okay. Take your vaccines, fine. Take your vaccines. I didn't tell you not to take your vaccines. All right. So I'm sorry. We're not sleeping at night. No, okay. That's not what I'm saying. But all right, keep going. But I'm talking about taking a medicine, any medicine, not vaccine. But that's what I'm saying. What we're talking about, I think we're mixing two things. We're talking about saving a life versus taking a medicine. I'm saying those are two very different things in Jewish.
Well, if the medicine saved your life, then you would have to take it as long as it's a better chance that you're going to live. But if it says like there's a 51% chance you'll die from this medicine, I don't know, maybe you still, I don't know. That's unnecessary. Heidi, I saw a hand raised. You're unmuted.
Well, the medicine, taking a medicine, if there's no medicine out there that's going to actually say it'll save your life, everything has a risk.
Well,
and I've never heard a doctor, because I've asked them, and not only for me, but
I mean,
my
like 100% chance it saves your life?
Correct.
Oh yeah,
No.
that's such thing as 100%. Yes.
No. There's nothing out there. And as well as anything else, I mean, I've asked them not only for myself, but for my kids when they were growing up about different things. So there's always a risk. And they'll never give you a percentage of 50% or anything that cut and dry. So there are certain things that you have to outweigh what your history is, because you know your own history. But I just think that this topic is now going to a different level than, taking medicine to save your life, or, what are your chances if you don't take the medicine? There are still people who do quite well naturally or doing other alternatives.
Right. So according to Jewish law, if a medicine has a better chance of saving your life, you would have to take it. But the reason that this topic is important is because we're about to get to the next step, and that is, can you donate a liver, kidney, and not liver? I think that's bad. But if you can you donate a kidney? Right, you could live partial. Can you put yourself at risk to save someone's life? By the way, do you notice that most of the Jews who seem to be donating are like Orthodox Chabad rabbis? I've been studying this, like the kidney things. It's always like these Chabadniks who are coming in from somewhere else and donating. The more Orthodox, the more likely I see kidney donations in the Jewish world. That is anecdotally, I don't have statistics for it. But the answer is going to be, if someone said, I met with this hospital when we were trying to get that kidney for, one of our congregants. And I said, what's the risk? And they said, there are people who donate a kidney and die. There are people who donate a kidney and then later in life, they needed that kidney. Those are all true, but there's a better chance you won't need the kidney, percentage wise. Again, it's not 50-50 or 75. And so Jewish law, even though it scares me, and I still signed up for it, but even though it scares me kind of thing, you still have to do it according to Jewish law. That doesn't mean you're going to do it. Rochelle, I see a hand raised. Hear me, I got you now.
Okay. It's really funny that today is the anniversary of it, but 15 years ago, my daughter-in-law donated a kidney to a friend of hers who was a nurse in a hospital. And they're both doing just fine.
Yeah.
And that was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And my understanding is it's more likely, it's percentage, more likely that you should be doing fine after giving a kidney, but it's not 100%. It's not even,
but I did read something that said it's like 99% chance. So if we then take that and we put it to our explanation that we just read, it is certainly more than a whole lot more than a 50% chance that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So
that's why. It's science. And when it comes to science, and we said this about abortion for a second, that when I teach abortion to my Catholic school, I always say that science has dictated how early can you do an abortion in Jewish law before it's its own person kind of thing. Science on kidneys ends up saying there is no choice. You must. But the funny thing is, I find the Orthodox more than the Reform. This is the chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel in 1980. This is not a nice person. No offense, but he was really not nice to conservative Jews and Reform Jews. And this is really Orthodox, right? The Sephardic rabbi is always a little crazier than the Ashkenazic rabbi in Israel. There's two chief rabbis in Israel, a Sephardic and Ashkenazic. This is the chief rabbi of Israel in 1980. All right.
Let's see if we're up to Rochelle. Rochelle, are you in the mood to
let
read?
me go down. Let me see. I can unmute you. Okay. Rochelle, can you hear us?
Sure.
Can we hear you?
Yes.
We can. I love, do you know what I do to people? I say, we can't hear you. She says, you can't hear me? I said, no, we still can't hear you. And I say, okay, so Rochelle, let us read the chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Obadiah Yosef, but don't read his stuff on African Americans.
I guess this is
Okay.
the 99%.
The truth is that we have been informed by God, fearing medical experts, that the degree of danger in the removal of a kidney is minimal, and that roughly 99% of kidney donors recuperate fully. Accordingly, all the authorities who prohibit one from putting himself at risk were referring to a balanced risk, which is not the case here, for it is definitely a mitzvah to donate in order to save his companion from certain death. And therefore, it seems that according to the halakha, it is permissible and even a mitzvah to donate one of his kidneys to save the life of a Jew whose life is endangered from kidney disease. And this worthy mitzvah will protect the donor as 1,000 shields.
Okay, I know. I didn't want to, I wish I could have edited what he said and took out the life of a Jew, but you know, again,
I did in my head.
I know, I apologize. But you know, again, notice to us, a mitzvah sounds like a good deed. Oh, it's a mitzvah to help someone. But he says it's a mitzvah, even more so, it's a permissible, even more so a mitzvah, a commandment to donate one of your kidneys. Now, by the way, 99%, do you know how many kidneys are donated every year? So 99% means hundreds of people die every year, right? Because there's like thousands of kidneys being donated. And so to understand 99% is not 100%. And I know none of us want, if I said to you, there's a 99% chance you're going to live, you're not going to, you know, if you take this food.
But it does say recuperate fully. So it's not saying that they die necessarily.
No, but a lot of people die. But it's still worth it. It's not even close to 50. What he's saying is it's not even close to 50%. But 99% in the world means there are people who die and it's still worth the risk. Okay, let's open this up. I see Heidi's hand. Go ahead now.
Do they not take into consideration the health of the individual, where the kidney's coming from, or does that not matter for a kidney?
If they test the kidney, I mean, they go through so much stuff to know if that kidney is going in the body. And even after all that, sometimes there's rejection. But yes,
but I mean, is that before they take the kidney?
This is about just donating your own kidney to someone. This is the question.
No, my question, that's not my question. My question is, if I'm going to say this person needs a kidney and I'm going to volunteer, do they do any testing on me?
Oh,
yeah.
It's incredible. It takes forever. I remember.
I don't know.
I did this years ago, and they had like 5 things they had to do. Now it's like 10 or 20 things. I forgot it was, and that you have to. They really don't take your kidney unless they're positive.
And I would add, if your health is compromised, if let's say that you're not as healthy of an individual,
right,
and then Jewish law would differ.
Definitely.
Right?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So if you're perfectly healthy, then yes. But if you are not perfectly healthy, then
the risk goes up.
Right. And
then
the risk
matters.
You'd have to really evaluate that.
So you can say, we can say donating a kidney is a halacha, is law, Jewish law. It's a mitzvah. But as Rabbi Amy just said, as Heidi's asking, if you are unhealthy, now certainly if you have a bad kidney, like you don't have to worry. No one's taking our kidney. Like I make a joke about my heart. No one wants my heart. But so you're not giving your kidney. But if you're unhealthy, you've got all these problems, you can't, now your risk. Yeah, I mean, you hear this all the time as we get older, and someone says, should we do surgery on your mother? Like I hear that, and they say, it's not going to help. It's only going to make it worse, and there's a less chance you're going to make it out of surgery, right? There's always this thing like how old and can you take care of medicine? So yeah, if you're sick, then that's going to raise your risk, and if your risk is raised, 51%. Now 50 is all. I think we all have some number in our head made up, but for the rabbis, it was 50. So did I see a hand raised? Shirley, you're raising your hand. You're just relaxing. All right. So it's a tough question. I find this hard because I'm a scaredy cat, right? I don't want to put my life at risk for anything, right? It's 99. I'm a gambler. A 99% chance of me living, I still don't like those odds. I want like 99.9%. And even then I probably would say, yeah, I don't want to be one. I did this morning. I was talking to someone about the numbers for COVID, right? And they say if you get it, it's a 90% chance you'll be fine. And then there's a 90% chance even if you get it, you're going to live, whatever it is. So I said, okay, 99.9. So if I know 1,000 people, am I willing to sacrifice one if it's 99.9%, or if it's, and we're doing this we have this COVID meeting, and we have like these numbers, right? You have these numbers every day. Like, what's the chance that someone may die if you have 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people? But we're doing these numbers, and that's what these COVID numbers are doing. Like,
and I think it's interesting. If you look, I think that, would you recommend, to your parent or your sibling or your child, we can all say, oh, this is a lovely thing to donate a kidney. How, if your child or your sibling or your parent asked you, would you answer the same? It's very, I think it's hard. What do you think, Rochelle? Are you saying yes? You would answer the same?
Because I was asked. I said, I can't answer you right now. I need to really think about it.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any, she had one child at the time. And I thought about it and I said, go for it. But she was in the hospital for 3 days because I remember it was over Thanksgiving.
Wow.
I talk a big game, but yeah, when push comes to shove, if my child said, I'm thinking of donating my kidney to my friend, as much as I should say, well, according to Jewish law, you should do it. I mean, it's my child. I probably would say, you should think about it. Not that our kids would even tell us, probably, little monsters.
Wow. Okay.
So,
and there was another question, but we'll have to save it for another time.
Which one's that?
Because there's one we didn't get to about like a live liver transplant, which where there's much more danger.
It's much more. Yes. Now again, my guess it's still not 50. You have a 51% chance of dying, because that's a super high number chance of they wouldn't be doing them. But yeah, I think, and there's pain involved. By the way, pain's also important in Judaism, causing yourself pain, living with pain. So yeah.
But the upshot is definitely
right.
Thumbs up on organ donation.
Organ donation,
death,
no doubt that organ donation is a commandment
and a mitzvah during life.
Yeah, except Jews, don't really. As one Corrigan said to me once when I said, well, the Talmud says, and they said, I don't give a damn what the Talmud says, it's still wrong. And I'm like, okay. So, we're Jews, it's we're going to do what we want anyway. But
we're going to decide which Rugelach we like, even if our wife's is better. Go for it, Rochelle.
But look at how long it took for everybody to accept the fact of giving blood. It took us forever.
It did. And same is true for organ donation.
And same
it
with
took decades.
And science helps, right? You take Tylenol now. Right? I don't know anyone's like, I won't take Tylenol. I won't take aspirin. Yeah.
I know.
Okay, Joan and Irv. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No.
Okay.
From our kids again.
It might be a silly question, but it did come up. Okay, with organ donation, say this would be after death, somebody donated their heart that was transplanted into someone else. If you believe in resurrection, when
we all go rolling.
When we go rolling underground and we're in Israel, what about where does that donated organ end up?
It is a good question, and one that was asked, by the rabbis. And basically what the accepted opinion is if, and the way I think of it too, is if we think that God is all powerful, is powerful enough to resurrect the dead, right? That's pretty powerful. I mean, if we believe that, we are believing in an all powerful, all knowing God, then that God can certainly recreate a heart, so I don't see any problem whatsoever. And you think about it too, like many people, unless their life is cut short tragically in a car accident or something, we're not dying in our best selves. Do you know what I mean? We're dying when God willing, we're dying when we're 95 and, our bodies have just given out and, and we're exhausted. You know what I mean? We're not dying when we're 30, right? So if you think about it like that, if God is resurrected, God isn't gonna, that's not really something I believe in personally in bodily resurrection. I do believe that we live on, but I don't believe that we will be resurrected like that. That's not my personal belief.
I'm gonna have hair.
But if I did, I think that God would resurrect us at our best selves.
Very nice. Heidi, did you have your hand up before we finish up?
No,
All right.
I'm good.
Good. Well, then it is 12:59. I think we actually scheduled for next Monday because we realized that we're not probably traveling for the weekend. So even though Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is Thanksgiving-ish, I don't know what that means for us this year. So we don't have classes on Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday.
Surprise, what we're gonna do.
Oh, it is a surprise.
It's a surprise.
It is a surprise.
To
I'm so
us.
excited. No, it's not. That's what I always tell the kids. What are we having for dinner? It's a surprise.
Yeah.
So it's a surprise what we're doing next week, but we are doing.
We'll let you know.
We'll be back on next week. If for some reason we don't see each other between now and next week, have a happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Hold your breath, and
Don't sneeze.
Yeah, don't sneeze. Cover your sneeze.
Enjoy
wear a mask.
Your turkey or your salmon or whatever you're eating.
That's right. And have a great day. Thank you.